Thank you, Larry. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Tracy Dorland. It's nice to see you all, and I am really thrilled to be here to speak with you today. It's nice to get out of the Ed Center, number one, and be in the community. I actually started April 16th, I think, and I haven't had a lot of time to be in the community because I just hit the ground running, helping the district figure out things like how we finish negotiations with our teachers and support personnel associations, helping them figure out how we finalize our budget, and supporting the district through what I think was the most difficult school year in public education ever. And we wrapped it up, and I enjoyed graduations with our board members. And it was a really, I think, positive spring, but I did not have a lot of time to get out into the community and talk and engage. And so today means a lot to me, because that's what I want to be doing, is being a present leader with all of you. And I do want to just say thank you to Stephanie and Rick for being here this morning with me. It means a lot. I have had tremendous amount of support from our Board of Education, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So let's begin. I would like to just share with you a little bit, for those of you who are like me, who kind of like to know, am I clicking? Yes, there is. Okay. For those of you who like to know where we're headed, I'm going to share with you what my goal is this morning in this presentation, and then I'm going to share with you a little bit of an agenda. So I really want you to just get to know me a little bit. I'll share a little bit about myself. I want you to understand the successes and challenges facing our school district based on what I know today and what I'm thinking about. I want to share with you more information about our career and technical education programs, which is very relevant to this audience and this group. And I have Marna Messer here, who can help me share more about those programs. And then I also want to just end the presentation after a little bit of time here and start a conversation, because I'd like to hear from you. Yeah. So we'll just get going. We're going to get to know me. We're going to talk about the state of the district. And I'm doing like 3 clicks in one thing here. We're going to talk about the state of the district, and then we're going to talk about CTE in Jeffco and partnerships with industry, and talk a little bit about early childhood. So let's talk a little bit about me. First of all, I'll share with you that I live in Jeffco. Am I going the wrong direction? There we go. I live in Jeffco. I grew up in Jeffco. I was born here, and I grew up sort of in the Southwest Plaza area. I did not attend Jeffco schools because my parents chose a Catholic school experience for me. I ended up at Mullen High School and then CU Boulder. After that, I spent a little bit of time, started my teaching career in California, because I followed a boy there, who's now my husband. And we have 2 children. After a little bit of a stint in California, we moved back to Colorado. I've lived in Jeffco for the last 9 years, and we have 2 children. I have a daughter who started 9th grade this year, which is awesome. I'm super excited for high school and scary at the same time, right? Because we all know once it starts, it goes really fast. So I'm nervous about that. But she's doing really well in her first few days in high school, and my son's in 7th grade. So I have a vested interest in this district, and I'm really committed to being here and spending some good quality time doing great work for our community. I had the opportunity in my previous district in Adams 12 to work for a wonderful leader named Chris Godowski, and he's been in that district for 12 years as superintendent, and I've seen firsthand what can happen in a school district when a strong leader partners with a community over a long period of time. And I think it makes a huge difference for kids and families and the community as a whole. So I'm hopeful that I can have a long tenure here and support our community with some great work moving forward. This is a quote that I'm just going to pop. This quote means a lot to me in terms of my leadership style and what I believe about leadership. It's from a book called The Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner, and I just am going to give you a minute to read it. So one of my beliefs as a district administrator, leader, is that there should be an expectation that I have some expertise, right? That I know a thing or two about teaching and learning, how to run a school, how to make sure we manage a really large budget. And I need to be using that expertise to make sure that the organization is the best it can be. I also think that there's a balance between being the expert and being in service to your community. And I believe I need to do both. And that I'm not always the expert. Sometimes the expert hat needs to come off and the listening needs to begin, and a real seek to understand what the community wants for their children has to happen. And so I just want you to know that's part of my leadership belief. And I think that, again, it is a relationship. And that's why being here this morning means so much to me, because being here with you is a start of a conversation that I think can lead to that importance of relationship. So very happy to be here, and wanted to share with you a little bit transparently about who I am as a leader and what I believe. Here's what I've done, and I think Larry did a great job kind of describing a little bit of my background in the introduction, thank you. But these are the roles that I've had in public education. I've spent my entire career in public education. I started as a third grade teacher. I was also a first grade teacher, by the way, for 1 year, because I think first grade might be the hardest grade to teach. There's a lot of pressure on getting those kiddos beginning reading skills, and I think I did a good job. I moved from that position into a position of interventionist because I thought to myself after that first year in first grade, I have to know more about how to get kids to read and really support those who don't know how. And so learned a lot about how to make sure kids got what they needed in terms of progressing with reading skills. But yeah, so these are the roles that I've had. And this picture on the right is a picture that I have in my office, and it's my first class that I ever taught in North Sacramento School District. They're third graders. And I can tell you that from that group of kiddos, I had one student who, it was a very much an inner city California type of setting. Lots of challenges socioeconomically. One of the students refused to walk home for like a whole week because he had older kids on his street bullying him, and they had a hog in the yard. It was crazy. And he was afraid of the hog, which was not just a little potbelly pig, by the way. It was a hog. And they kept it as a pet, and the older kids in that house were bullying him on the way home, and I don't think doing anything too nefarious, but verbally kind of yelling at him. So I walked Eric Wilbur home for a full week, and we got to the point where we were able to get the kids to stop bothering him. And then another girl in this classroom we identified at the end of the year as gifted, and she moved into a gifted magnet school. And I was really proud of that work because I think it probably changed the trajectory of her life. And so this is meaningful to me. I have it in my office just because it reminds me why I do what I do every day. And this job that I have now can be pretty distant from the classroom. And so this photo reminds me to always remember what it's like to be in the classroom and what it's like to serve kids on a daily basis. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. We're gonna move into State of the District. This is a demographic slide that I love because it's just a great reminder of who we are as a district. I'm gonna get over here so I can actually see it. We have, as you can see in the big box on the left, just a breakdown of our demographics. The majority of our students are white at 66%. And then the second next group of students in terms of ethnicity is Hispanic. And then you can see the breakdown of other populations of students there. You'll also see the breakdown of students on IEPs. We have about 11.2% on IEPs. 8.4% of students are English learners. We have 69% of students who are not eligible for free and reduced lunch, but 30.6% who are. And our gifted and talented students are about 11.6%, very similar to our students on IEPs. What I did also do on this slide was put the number, because I think the percents are easy to talk about, but when you think about, I'll tell you one of the things that's just a little bit mind-blowing in my first 4 months in this job is the scale and scope of what we do. We have 80,000 students in this district, and so knowing the number, I mean, when you think about 11%, it doesn't seem like that big of a percentage, but when you look at the students on IEPs as almost 9,000 students in our community, that to me is a difference that creates almost a different sense of urgency for 9,000 children. And so we have a demographic slide here. The next slide talks a little bit, I'm going to talk next about our successes, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our challenges, and I'm going to do it through data. And so when we look at our successes, you can see here that we have a 4-year graduation rate and a 7-year graduation rate that is higher than the state of Colorado. And we should be really proud of that. And that has been consistent over a long period of time. So that's a good thing. We also have a lot of successes in our college and career ready pathways and work that we've done. So you can see we had 825 student mentorships. This is just last year, Marna, is that right? Yep, 890 career expo attendees and virtual industry interviews. Virtual because of course it was COVID, hoping soon we can move those back to in-person to give those students the interview experience for real. Concurrent enrollment classes, you can see the number there, over 3,500. 390 student internships, and I believe that also is a little low because of the pandemic. And so we're hoping that this year we can improve that number. Career Links industry participants is at 1,400, and our capstones completed is almost 1,600 from last year. And again, I think those are numbers that we can increase, given that we're not going to be hybrid at the secondary level, which is, every other day kids going to school, but really in person consistently this year, which is a goal of ours for the 21-22 school year. So those are some big successes. The other success that we have is in, when we look at sort of how are we doing, the metrics that we've been using include a body of evidence of various data points. And so one data point obviously is state assessments, internal district assessments, and we also look at perception data, feedback from students, staff, and families. And so we have the survey called Make Your Voice Heard, and we know that student engagement in that survey was the highest last year than pre-pandemic results. So our students, maybe because they were online so much and got so skilled with technology, they really took that survey seriously and more participated last year. We were pleased with that. And we actually were surprised to note that the majority of areas measured for the student survey did not show major declines in terms of their perception of various categories during the pandemic year. So that's great. And this is, you can see what types of things it measures in the box here, the table: relationships, climate, and rigor and relevance.
It's that.
Did I go back? Oh, did I not click? I must have clicked for myself. Can you see it now? I'm sorry. I'm not going to repeat everything I just said, but I will give you a minute to look at this slide. So we were pleased that our students participated at high rates in the survey. We're going to work on trying to make sure we can continue getting that high level of participation this year. And we were also pleased that we didn't see major dips in terms of how students were reacting to these categories and giving us feedback in these categories. Okay, so let's talk about some opportunities or challenges. This is a slide that comes from the state of Colorado. It shows our CMAS, which is the state assessment, median growth percentile for English language arts. ELA stands for English language arts. And this is a really challenging slide to look at once you understand how it reads. So I'm going to go through it for you. You can see on the left-hand side all of the different demographics broken out. So we have all students, English learners, free and reduced lunch, gender, gifted, all the way down to race and ethnicity. And under race and ethnicity, you can see the different ethnicities listed. One of the things that is important to note is that the median growth percentile is basically how much a student grows compared to his or her like peers within a year's time. And so the 50th percentile means that you grew 1 year in a year's time, and that is in the middle. That's usually at the state average. So you can see the median growth percentile scale at the top goes from a 1 to a 99. So if you're at 99, you grew twice as much as the average student across the state. If you're at the 50th percentile, you grew as much as the average student in the state, in your peer group. And so you can see, what you really want to see is a lot of blue. And you want to see very little orange. And so this slide shows you from 2017 to 2019 what was happening in our district. And unfortunately, we go from quite a bit of blue, where we're at the 52nd percentile, the 54th growth percentile, meaning kids are growing a little bit more than their peers across the state, all the way down in 2019 to pretty much being in the 40s across the board. And we have our Asian students still in the blue, but even the Asian students dropped from the 57th percentile to the 55th. Gifted and talented are still in the blue, but again, they also dropped from 57 to 55 in terms of growth percentile. So this is challenging. We're not moving in the right direction when students aren't increasing their growth percentiles on an annual basis. And we did not have data in 2020 because due to the pandemic, the assessment was not given. And again, I'll repeat, the state assessment is not the end-all be-all of how we look at the success of our students. That being said, it is an important measure for us to pay attention to. And at the aggregate level especially, in a district at our size and scale, it gives us really important indicators of what is going on and where we need to channel our efforts and energy. This slide tells me we really need to think about how we're teaching our kids English language arts and getting those reading and writing skills solid, especially by third grade. But we have work to do across the board in our grade levels to catch kids up. One of the other things to note, we talk often about equity gaps, and you can see, and you'll see what we do find is that our white students outperform our students in other ethnicity categories. So our Hispanic students do not perform as well as our white students, and that's an equity gap. We do have those in Jeffco. Every district has those, and every district is working hard to close those gaps. But I would also just say to you that given this slide, what I see is that we have a gap between students' performance and their potential. So even our white students here, if you look, we're at the 53rd percentile in 2017, and now they're at the 49th in 2019. And so it's not moving in the right direction for any of our students, even our highest performing students. And that's a problem. And I would just suffice it to say that our equity gap is really between a student's potential and their current performance. And we really need to think strategically and intentionally as a district about how we close that gap. So the next slide is math. And you can see the same pattern and trend, where we go from a lot of blue. We still have some issues here in the 2017 category, I think, with some orange and some of our race and ethnicity groups in particular, and our ELLs, free and reduced lunch. But by 2019, it's really not moving in the right direction. And we need to focus on that and pay attention to that. So here is now not looking at growth, but just looking at performance like by grade level. So if you're meeting and exceeding on the CMAS at the end of third grade, you are considered to be on grade level, right? And so this is just a third grade snapshot as an exemplar. We could look at this across all grades, but we won't today because we'd be here till 3 o'clock. But today we'll just look at third grade. So you can see on the left-hand side, 2017-18, and the percent of students who are meeting exceeding on CMAS in that year was at 46.8%. So our third graders, we have about 47% of them on grade level by the end of third grade. I mean, I would just say, knowing what I know about our community, having grown up here and now living here with my own children, we can do better, and we should. So that's one piece. And then when you look at the 2021 school year, we've gone backwards. You'll also note that we have a participation rate listed. So last year's data, the 2021 data, is data that we do have to be careful when we look at it, and we have to provide context for people. We had children that opted out, and so we can't necessarily say that we've made huge gains backwards in 2021 because we have to really take into account that we have a lower M size, which is a big deal. I will tell you that one of the things that I'm worried about is that in our participation data in 2021, we see lower numbers of participants in our most challenged student populations. So our English learners and our Hispanic students opted out of the CMAS assessment at higher rates than our white students. And so you could assume that more of our higher performing students took the test in 2021, and some of our students who usually might drag the data down because they don't have as high of a performance did not take the test. And so the fact that we are moving backwards, given that our participation demographics look different, is concerning to me. and it's just something that we have to say out loud and acknowledge. But again, it's data that we have to take with a grain of salt in 2021, because we had a lot of varied participation. We had schools that were at 7% of their students who took the test. And we had schools that were at 100% of their students who took the test. So it's really difficult to take it completely by the book in 2021, but I also think it's a mistake to not look at it. We did it. We got it done. And I do think we all have to acknowledge that the pandemic had impacts on our students. And I think this data shows it, and I'll just say that I think the number one thing we can say for a fact is that they had an interrupted school year. So if anything, they lost instructional time. And we've got to think critically about how to catch up some of that time for them in the coming months. So that's just some data that I want you to see. Here's another really interesting data slide that I think now talks a little bit less about elementary and literacy and more about the secondary component. So this is college and career ready. Oh, sorry. Thank you. It's hard when it's like totally behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is demographics of the students who did not graduate on time. And we look at on-time graduation by cohort. So we all understand graduation should be within 4 years of high school, right? So that's the first cohort. That's the cohort of most kids graduate in 4 years. We also look at a 7-year cohort, and I'm really appreciative of the state for allowing a 7-year cohort, because many kids just aren't gonna graduate in 4 years, and this allows us to give them additional opportunities to get that diploma. And so the 7-year cohort is something we also look at. When you look at the students, we had 942 students who did not graduate with their four-year cohort. That's the graph on the left. And then you can see the orange and the light purple and the dark purple. Those are free and reduced lunch eligible male and minority students. Those are the highest bar graphs. So of the 942 students, all represented on this graph, who did not graduate with their 4-year cohort, they are disproportionately our free and reduced lunch male minority students. And so we've got to think about that. What do we need to do for that student population to help them graduate with their 4-year cohort? When you look at the 7-year cohort, it's the exact same data. And so it's not like they're missing the 4-year cohort and then we're doing something differently and they're catching up and graduating with their 7-year cohort. We're just disproportionately somehow not getting that group of students what they need in terms of our graduation results. We do beat the state, as I mentioned, in terms of grad rate almost every year. So that is something to be proud of. At the same time, we could be doing a whole heck of a lot better, especially for this group of students who really is not having the same type of opportunity to graduate with their cohort as their other students. So something important for us to also note, and another challenge for us to highlight. Okay, here's something that I think is interesting. You'll notice the PSAT reports and academic growth data haven't necessarily been released by CDE, and they're not final, but we're just kind of showing you this data to show that we are in Jeffco for 9th, 10th, and 11th SAT and PSAT beating the state in terms of our total mean score. And so that's great. That's great. I would just suffice it to say that in Jeffco we can even do better again, right? And so one of the things that we can highlight is sort of what we're doing well and where we're doing better than the state. The other piece is how much better can we do? And I think the state is one measure for us to sort of strive to and look to in terms of how we do better than this certain standard. But I would also just say, I don't think our state's doing all that great in a lot of different categories. And so when you hold yourself to a standard, you really want it to be a high standard, right? And something we need to consider is there, in addition to comparing ourselves to the state, are there metrics that we want to set for ourselves because we believe we can reach even higher than just where the state is? And I think that's an important thing for us to talk about in the future. Okay, so here's the bottom line on the data, kind of a summary slide for you. We have a lot to be proud of. We beat the state in our graduation rates. We have expansion of internships, certification, and concurrent enrollment for our students. And we are helping more students make progress out of the lowest quartile of reading performance. We have more students coming to us in that quartile, which makes it challenging, but more students are moving out when we look at our internal assessments. And we have some challenges. We have declining student achievement rates from 2017 on. We have disproportionate challenges for our male students who are also students of color and free and reduced lunch status. We have additional impacts based on the loss of learning time from the pandemic. And students who are not graduating with their 4 or 7 year cohorts are disproportionately free and reduced lunch, male, and minority. And so I just think it's important for us to be able to state what we know, share the facts, and then have really important community conversations about what we do about it. The next piece I'll share with you is that we have a really cool new tool for families and our community to get a sense of this data and see it school by school. So everything I just shared with you obviously was at the district level, state of the district, aggregate. We have a tool called School Insights, and any community member can go onto our website. If you just Google Jeffco School Insights in your Google search engine or any search engine, you'll find it, and then you can play around and look school by school at how different schools are doing with different subsets of data. I just wanted to highlight that for you today after sharing with you the data for our district so that you know that you could go find that. You can also, I think, look district-wide. Is that right? Yeah, you can look at it as an aggregate data as well. And there's a lot more data that I didn't share with you that you can find there. Okay, so then what do you do about it? Right, you just share the state of the district from a data perspective and then sort of like, what are we gonna do? And I do have some thoughts about that after 4 months, I would hope I do. And here are my beginning thoughts. I have some time with our Board of Education later next week to talk more about this. But these are the things that I think we need to really start zeroing in on and focusing on. I believe we need to find the just right balance between system coherence and school-based autonomy. We have many schools in our district, and we need to think about, are we a district of schools, or are we a school district where we implement systems so that schools have levers that they can pull, and there's some consistency from our school to school experience for families and students. And right now, I think our balance is off a little bit. I think we have a lot of different schools doing a lot of different things, and we don't have the right balance of systemness and coherence across our sites. I will say that very intentionally, the words just right balance is in there, because we are a very large district, both in terms of numbers of students and miles and geography differences and community differences. Our mountain schools are very different than the Jefferson articulation area. And so there has to be room for autonomy. There has to be room for schools to pay attention to the needs of their most local community and make decisions in the best interest of the students that they specifically serve. At the same time, our district has got to provide systems that our schools can take advantage of that provide some level of consistent experience across the schools. And and by the way, that's really hard work. It's a really hard balance for any school district to find, and I think it's gonna be a work in progress. But it is something that already the team and I have spent a lot of time talking about as we roll out certain initiatives. And so that's one thing. I want to really take a close look at the use of our resources. We have a lot of resources in Jeffco, and I know there's a large conversation around school funding, and I will agree that schools are not funded at the right level by our state. We have some big work, I think, to do around the school funding model, and I know a lot of people are talking about that, and it's absolutely true. With that being said, I feel a responsibility as a district administrator to make sure that the funds we are getting from the state are used as efficiently and effectively as possible first. And so that's my work this year, is to really take a close look at our budgets and make sure I know where everything's going and what is it funding and what are the results of what it's funding. And so we're gonna be taking some time to do that. Again, I talked a little bit about students have had loss of instructional time due to the pandemic. I wanna take some time and really think about how do we provide additional learning opportunities for students who need it, given that loss of instructional time. We have $68 million that the district can invest based on some federal stimulus funds called ESSER. Our application for those funds is due in December. I will be honest and tell you, we still have big expenses aligned to the pandemic. So we're still purchasing masks. We are purchasing Binax Now test kits. We are purchasing additional cleaning materials. We are changing out air filters more frequently, and air exchanges are happening in our buildings more frequently, which means we have more labor costs to get those filters changed and more cost in the actual filters themselves. So those expenses will need to be applied to the 68 million. But we also have opportunity and room within those funds to do things like tutoring after school for students who might need it. Hiring an interventionist for schools who have students who might need additional time. So we're building that plan now and looking forward to sharing more about that with our community in the fall. We need to also, in my opinion, explore how our district is organized to support schools with improved student achievement and social emotional well-being. We just need to make sure that everything we do as a central office is organized in a way that supports the principal in the building with his or her teachers and staff. And I'm not sure we're organized the right way to make sure that that's happening. And so we're gonna explore that. And then again, we just need to focus on relationships, positive climate and culture, and community engagement, which again is why I'm happy to be here today, because this is how you do that work. And our principals, their task when we met with them in July was use these resources that we're gonna give you and have the best start to your school year with your staff and your students as you can. Your primary focus right now is to take care of people and celebrate that we're coming back better together. And our theme this year is Better Together. And so our principals have really run with that, and I think started off on a very positive foot this year with our students and staff. It's been a challenge. As you all know, there have been ups and downs and back and forths and this protocol for COVID or that protocol for COVID, and there are a lot of opinions about either what we're doing or what we have to do. And I respect, by the way, all of those opinions. They all matter. This is people's children, and it's their experience in school on a daily basis, and they have a right to have an opinion about how that experience looks. And at the same time, learning happens better when we work together.
Jack jumps Jake. Jake.
Learning happens better when our students learn from each other.
Jake.
Together we laugh. We inspire one another. We communicate with more than words, with our faces and our gestures, with our smiles. Together we support each other. We're there to help. We celebrate and we cheer for each other. We teach each other and learn from each other. We answer each other's questions. We move each other in the right direction and get each other from place to place. We make sure we all have something to eat. We share meals and stories. We share ideas. We collaborate to be our best. Together, we make sure we have nice places to be and to learn. Together, we keep each other safe. Together, we make the broader community stronger, and that, in turn, strengthens all of us. Together, we do more. We are Jeffco, and we are better together. Maybe someone can help me forward this. There we go. Nope, that went backwards. I'm gonna stop because then we're gonna like overwrite each other. There we go. Oh. One back, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that went the wrong way. There we go. So in addition to sort of these high-level areas of focus that I think we need to begin talking about, I just wanted to highlight a few key initiatives or projects that are underway, a little more tactical in terms of what we are doing in Jeffco schools. So we have an elementary literacy resource study that's directly aligned to that data that I just shared with you. Capital improvement project, we have a midway assessment. We're halfway through our bond, which is exciting and awesome, and there's lots of evidence of that in our schools. When I tour them, all the capital improvements are amazing, and we're at the halfway mark. So we are taking a minute to just say, how's it going? What went really well with the first half, and what are some improvements we can make to ensure that the second half goes as well or even better? We are doing some planning again, as I mentioned, to recover from the pandemic. How can we give students additional time in instruction to make sure those who need it get it and can get caught up? We are expanding CTE, and we are working to relaunch the Jeffco Bright Futures Initiative, which is also very exciting. So I'm gonna share some more things with you about the literacy resource study, the CTE expansion, and the Bright Futures. Oh my gosh, Tracy, there, go the right way. Okay, here's a little bit about the elementary resource study. There are 22 schools currently participating in the implementation of a new resource called Into Reading. It's a core program approved by the state of Colorado aligned to the science of reading. And we also have 9 schools implementing a curriculum by expeditionary learning. So expeditionary learning is a programmatic approach to like a whole school model, but expeditionary learning also has a curriculum, a literacy curriculum that 9 of our schools are using. We're studying that curriculum as well. And then 2 schools are using Wit and Wisdom, which is a different curriculum. So we're doing some study of different programs so that hopefully, the first semester we can do this study. We are working with Johns Hopkins, which is a pretty cool partner to be working with, to do that study. And in January or February, we'll have a report to our board about what we're finding, how it's going, and hopefully in the spring, we'll have some decisions about options for our schools so that we can have all elementary schools with a core reading program and not 85 of them, right? This is going back to that just right balance between school-based autonomy and system coherence. We might not have 1, right? But we might have 3 or 4. And we might have guidance on if you're this type of school with this type of student population or this type of student achievement data, think about this resource for these reasons. And if you're that type of school with that type of student profile and data, think about that resource for these reasons. And some school-based decision making. I mean, again, going back to the picture of my students on the second slide or whatever it was, as a teacher, I cared a lot about what resources I used with kids. And school leadership teams should have some choice and voice in what they do for their students. They know them the best. At the same time, I just don't think every single classroom or every single school should be making decisions based on the worldwide options that might be out there. And so that's that just right balance. So I'm excited about this project, and I think we're gonna have a great semester learning about it. Now let's talk about CTE, because I think this is the most relevant for this audience, and I'm really excited. We have an amazing partnership with the Chamber called Arvada Works, which is a talent pipeline program that supports our high school students with career experiences as they get ready to jump into the workforce. And so Cammie, do you want to say a few things about this? So this is new to me. I don't know a ton about it, but I'm super excited that we're partners, and I think it's an amazing partnership, but I want Cammie to share a little more because she's been a key leader in all of this. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And obviously those that know me know this is a little bit of an area of passion for me and our organization. So I'm thrilled to be able to share a little bit more with you today about that. Marna and Sherry, who are my partners in crime in this work, and we have many, many conversations. I'm grateful for that. This started in 2017 as we observed that businesses were having a really difficult time finding and attracting the talent that they needed. So as we started to have those conversations with business leaders, what we heard is there was a misalignment in demand, in the skills they needed, and really a recognition that business voice was critical to the development of our talent pipeline. So we started to really think about that and work with all of our incredible partners, Marna and Sherry in the district, and businesses and Red Rocks and other partners to say, how can we work together to improve this system? And we've made a lot of progress, but my ask today is on your tables, there's a work-based learning toolkit. We need all of you to step up and be those leaders, be those mentors, be those businesses that support our future workforce. So that's our big ask today. There's much more to unpack here, and I'm happy to always have conversations about this with you. So please feel free to reach out if I can assist you in that. Marna or Sherry, do you want to say anything?
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
That was
Awesome.
great.
Thank you so much, Cammie. It's really awesome and exciting, and I think really relevant. Actually, you might want to give that mic to Marna, because I'm going to ask her to talk about the slide. Not this slide, but the next slide. Not this slide, but the next slide. This is just a visual of like the partnerships, which is so cool because it's so busy because we have so many. Do you want to say anything about this slide?
Well, I'm not sure I'm really on. Am I on? Here, I'll just be really loud. So we're really excited because of our work with Cammie and because of our work with the entire, all the chambers and Jeffco EDC, et cetera. We've been able to grow a lot of amazing partners. This is only a snapshot, and we believe there are many more. We have tons of small businesses, large businesses, et cetera, that are interested in engaging, and we just hope to continue to grow that, so we need all of you to do it.
And we're going to stop talking in a minute and let you guys talk back to us, and we're going to engage in conversation. But this is the next one. This is amazing too. Talk about all of our programming options.
Yeah, so sometimes people are wondering what are our Cte programs and what do they look like. So we actually have every single sector in the industry sectors for Colorado represented in Jefferson County. So we have about 150 high school programs. About a third of those are from Warren Tech, from our central, south, and north campuses. But then we also have 2/3 of those across all of our high schools. And we're really proud because of the mill levy that we were grateful to receive. We were able to grow our middle school programming, which we know is really critical to getting improvements in pathways in our high school, to 27 schools.
And we have a career fair day too. It's not middle school, it's high school student, ninth
High school.
graders.
10th grade, we have 10th grade career expo.
Can you talk about that? It's happening in October.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
really excited. It's on October 26th, and it will be happening at Social Capital. This is our first foray into that zone. Really excited to use that space. They're an amazing business. And we will have probably about 57 industry and vendors there to help work with our kids and help explore different careers. And the reason we think it's so powerful at 10th grade is that this allows them to get into 11th grade, knowing some of those career pathways, and really be a direct pipeline into different businesses.
Awesome. Thanks, Marna. I appreciate you jumping in on those slides. So we want to talk a little bit about Warren Tech. As Marna just mentioned, we have our CTE programs exist in all of our schools, but the 3 campuses are the north, south, and then the central campus. We have these programs at the central and north campuses, as you can see. Oh my God. There we go. They're the programs at the different campuses that currently exist, and we just are opening a new campus, which is Warren Tech South, and these are the programs that will be there. And we have a short, quick video for you to see the new Warren Tech campus, and I'm going to do like 1 minute spoiler alert, which is airplane hangar. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, sorry. There we go. have the chance to get up there, it's an amazing facility. And we're really happy about it. Because I pushed it, it's going to start. Oh my gosh. I'm not doing a very good job facilitating the slides. We'll get you guys a copy of Cammie, we'll get you a copy of the presentation so you can post it with whatever you want to post. So if I'm talking and there's no slide, okay. Yeah, so that's Warren Tech and CTE, and thank you, Marna, for jumping in. And we are really proud of that work. And I know personally current high school students who are taking advantage. I know one in the aviation program. He's one of the first 50, and like all summer he couldn't stop talking to me about how excited he was to go back to school for the aviation program. He's going to train to be a pilot with Jeffco. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And so just amazing opportunities for our students and industry partners to be partnering with us to help our students. We also have, we are part of the Jeffco Bright Futures Roadmap, and this is a strong partnership with many organizations in our community. There was a lot of work done from 19 to 20 in this arena, and the pandemic, I think, really got in the way of this work. And so there is a strong effort to restart this work, and really excited about ensuring the success of young children and families in our community. It's an effort around like prenatal all the way into preschool. And so huge opportunity for us to get a jump start on some of that reading data that I showed you, and supporting families with what they can do before students even come to Jeffco Public Schools to get them ready, school ready. So we're really excited about it from that lens, and I know many organizations in our community are excited about this work, and we're excited to relaunch it and get started again soon. So that's also happening. And now we really just want to open it up for conversation, but I'm not sure how much time we have, Cammie, so.
A couple questions. Does anybody have a written question? All right, we will do our best to get to all the questions. If we don't, maybe I can send it to your team after and we can do a follow-up with answers to the questions.
Sure, we can do that, absolutely.
And Marna, I think I can be loud. I'm not gonna.
Do you want you sure? Here. Apparently I know how to turn it on now.
You are great. You did great.
Taught me.
All right, can you expand on what's being done around mental health for students?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so based on the mill levy that we received, thank you to the voters, we have been able to provide social emotional learning specialists in all of our schools, and really excited about that work. These specialists support teachers with how to implement social emotional supports within the classroom, and they also do some direct support of students when needed and necessary. And we have a whole team that works in that arena that also makes sure that we're collecting data on suicide risk assessments, making sure that we provide supports at that highest tier need when we have a student who might need a very serious mental health support, all the way down to making sure that we have positive climate and culture in classrooms. So the anti-bullying work and the climate culture sort of community building in a classroom, and everything in between. And we are really excited about the social emotional learning specialists. As I've gone into schools this week, I've seen them in classrooms with teachers and students, building in those rituals and routines, supporting little ones who might not quite be ready and are crying and needing some additional support. And so those staff in our buildings are key to this work, and I'm really excited about that.
We have so many good questions. It's very exciting. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID and maybe elaborating a little more on thoughts around school closures and what would maybe lead to that.
This year we are not required to, so the school closures and the back and forth last year for all districts was really driven not necessarily by intra-school transmission or like COVID running rampant through a school. We actually don't have all the data that we tracked across many metro area school districts. We had a partnership where we tracked the data of COVID in our schools. We do not have evidence of high levels of intra-school transmission for this disease. What happened last year when we had to go back and forth was that the quarantines of staff in particular, and students, but a lot of staff, really made it impossible to operate. And so if I have a building where a third of the staff is out, I can't run a safe environment for students to go to school. If I have half of a third grade class in quarantine, I can't send 10 kids home and have 10 in person and have an effective way to deliver instruction to all 20. And so the quarantines is what really took the wheels off the bus and made it so that we couldn't operate. What I will say this year that's different is if according to our public health order, if students are masked, if an individual, students or staff, is masked in a building and they're exposed to COVID, number one, if they're vaccinated, they don't have to quarantine anyway, mask or no mask. But if they're in a mask, and now they all have to be in a mask, even if they're unvaccinated, they don't have to quarantine. And so if there's an individual exposure. Now, what's going to be tricky is if there are 5 cases related to one another in a building, that's considered an outbreak. And at that point, we may need to, like if there's a 3rd grade class where there's 5 cases, we may need to take that one class and make them remote for 10 days or so. But I'm really hoping, because our community rates are lower than they were in December of last year, for example. So like last December, we were at 300 cases per 100,000. And we really were using that as a metric across the Front Range to say, if we stay at around 300, we think we can go back and keep the wheels on the bus and operate. When we shifted to remote learning at the secondary level in like the November timeline, I think it was, we were at 600 per 100,000 in our community, and we couldn't contain the quarantines. So the adjustments to the quarantine guidelines are huge, and our low case rates is huge. And in Jeffco, we are at 75-ish, maybe 76 by now, % vaccinated. We have a very high vaccination rate in our county, which is also really important because we don't have to quarantine people who are vaccinated or people who are masked, and those who are quarantined are much less likely to get sick. And so I don't think we'll have very many outbreaks. That's my best hope. So I'm hoping we're not closing schools. I'm hoping we're not shifting back and forth. My goal this year is to keep kids in school, in person consistently, and I know right now that's with a mask on, and I know many people are very upset about that, but at the end of the day, if it keeps kids in school, and it keeps them in a routine on a daily basis, and we can get them taught with a mask on, I know it's not ideal, but it's much better than having them quarantined. So, yeah.
Perfect. So that time went really fast today, and I know we have a lot more questions that you guys had. So what I will do is, if I could get these to your team and we can get a written response, we'll send it out as a follow-up to all of you so we make sure we get every question answered for you. I apologize that time went so quick. So much good information. Can we give our fabulous superintendent a big round of applause?